So in this video, I am going to break down the best Mediterranean foods in my opinion, and from my 7 years of filming Star Foodies in the Mediterranean. I'm going to break down the foods and the ingredients that I believe are the most amazing and most beneficial for hair and skin. And plus, I've even got my own insider tips working on the show the last 7 years. I mean, I've gone right to the sources. The most infamous dairy farmer, the most infamous beekeeper, the most infamous olive grove growers. I mean, I've got tons of info for y'all today. So if you want to learn more about the Mediterranean diet and very easy ways to incorporate it into your lifestyle, keep watching. I think these tips are really going to help you really just change up your diet in a very non-complicated way. They certainly have helped me. So let's start off simply. Why is the Mediterranean diet so great for hair and skin? Have you all heard of the blue zones in the world? Well, a couple of those blue zones happen to be in Greece, in Greek islands like Ikaria and Crete or Crete. And I can tell you that I've been to the Greek island of Crete several times filming 2 seasons of the show there. And the average, talking about the average person, if you go to the post office, you go to the supermarket, the average person, regardless of age, has the most glowing, plump, beautiful skin and luscious hair. And so I mean, I would literally stop people and ask them what products they used. And for the most part, they all wanted to tell me about their diet. Now, when I was interviewing people on camera for the show, we did talk about diet, but they did also really promote local produce and they really do support local products. So let's talk about what is in this diet that gives these people from that area this amazing hair and skin. Number one, this diet is very rich in antioxidants. So antioxidants really help keep the skin from aging, let's just call it while aging, and also help protect the hair follicles. Number two, healthy fats and hydration. These are super important in the Mediterranean diet. And in the literature, what it describes it as doing as keeping the skin plump and the hair, of course, hydrated, but also very shiny. Number three, anti-inflammatory properties. These foods are really going to help you prevent breakouts and then also help you with any scalp irritation. And number four, we're going to talk about the foods that support your gut health. And of course, this is super important for plump, beautiful, radiant skin and growing long, luscious hair. Okay, everybody. So the very first ingredient we're going to talk about is olive oil. Olive oil is an ingredient that when I'm in Greece and I'm interviewing people about their diet, it's probably one of the first things they discuss. Again, it's very cultural because it is grown there. So they have learned that from their ancestors. Olive oil is amazing for the hair and for the skin. And just to give you a little bit of info on olive oil, it has the omega-3s, it has vitamin E, it also has something called polyphenols. So polyphenols is an antioxidant, probably the most infamous antioxidant that's associated with olive oil, and this helps fight your oxidative stress. Oxidative stress to the body happens when your free radicals are not balanced, okay? And that causes a cell change, which is very negative, which could lead to further, let's just call them nasty diseases, but we don't want to get into in this video. But polyphenols is an antioxidant that is incredible for the body, and there's a lot of science and literature and Harvard studies on this, and feel free to Google that and search that yourself. I'll add some relevant links below, but I have personally interviewed and spoken to people that are scientists and that are using this to cure a lot of ailments. So how can it help us with our beauty and our skin and our hair? Well, olive oil is really good for your scalp. Once again, anytime you're thinking about adding more hydration and antioxidants, that's going to be great for the hair. Now, what is it going to do for your skin? Because it's adding moisture into the body, it is amazing for plumpness and radiance to the skin. Now, I know there's different theories about using this topically. I personally, again, I grew up eating this stuff and I grew up learning about it from my mom. I personally would never put it on my skin or on my hair, although I do know ladies who have very successfully used it both on their skin, on their hair, not the scalp. We're talking about ends. For me, I have very sensitive acne prone skin, and this does clog pores. So if you can tolerate it on your skin, you can go ahead and try that. If you can tolerate it on your hair as well. My personal recommendation is to not use it topically. The best benefits are taking this internally. You can also, which I learned I think in season 6 of the show, or season 5, I started doing this. You can also just have a little in the morning to coat your stomach, and it literally feels like a meal. It is beautiful to take in the morning on an empty stomach. Okay, so taking a shot of olive oil may not work for everybody, and I have so much information on olive oil, guys. I'm going to do a completely separate video on that because I've interviewed so many experts specifically in olive oil over the last few seasons of the show. But for now, this would be my personal advice. Incorporate it in your food on a daily basis and start off by getting extra virgin high phenolic olive oil. Do your research to find the best brands close to you and start adding it in a raw fashion in your foods. For example, you're making a salad, put it on top of the salad. But here's something even better that I like to do. I make my own salad dressing with that olive oil. I keep it in the fridge with like 3 ingredients. It is delicious, and I add that onto probably 1 meal a day, that specific dressing, and that way I make sure I get it in my food and it tastes delicious. Okay, number 2 for the ingredient or the product, let's talk vitamin C, because this is a powerhouse and very prominent in the Mediterranean diet. So vitamin C, as we all know, is so amazing for us topically. But in the Mediterranean, they associate internal take of vitamin C for collagen production, youthful skin, and youthful hair. What could you consume really quickly and easily that has high vitamin C? Oranges are probably the most famous. Grapefruit, if you like something that has a little bit of tang that is not as sweet. And lemons. I try to add lemons in everything I can. And I also drink this in the morning with my water. So anywhere that you can add lemons, you're going to get a very good vitamin C powerhouse. All right, so number 3 for a beautiful shine and glow. Mediterranean shine and glow, let's call it. It's your fatty fish, it's your omega-3s that contribute to this. And I have to tell you, I have a personal story about this because several years ago, I changed my diet to eat an influx or to consume a ton of fatty fish. And that was because my optometrist told me so, because I had an issue with my eyes. And I can tell you that I've personally seen scientific proof that this stuff helps. And I took this in a natural source. So I eat a ton of salmon. So probably salmon and sardines. I have a lot of that. The best type of fish that I was told to eat, and I can tell you, proven that it works, is the salmon, sardines, mackerel, and anchovies. And my favorite of these are, when I'm in Greece, I love to have the beautiful sardines because I know they're fresh there. And then generally I can eat salmon all year round. I absolutely love it. I can actually do a video on how I cook that and how it is really, really delicious. I learned that from a French chef actually, and he taught me how to cook it so it's so tender and just delicious. All right, so why are the omega-3s so important? The omega-3s will actually lubricate your hair and your skin. For me, it caused lubrication with my eyes because I was having eye issues, like I mentioned. Without getting into all of those medical details, my doctor told me that by eating all these omega-3s, that consumption would actually start to lubricate my eyes, and it did. It lubricates, it acts like hydration for your hair, it acts like hydration for your skin. I have seen probably the biggest difference in my diet has come from the olive oil and the salmons. And once again, what do they have in common? They have the omega fatty 3, and they are really consumed at a very large, very high level in the Mediterranean. And then specifically, I'm referring to Greece because that's where I have been filming the series, of course, and speaking to the experts. You're also going to see less dryness in your hair and your skin. You're also going to see if you have any scalp irritation or dryness issues or inflammation issues, you will see a difference when you really start consuming this. again, not a medical doctor. I feel like I need to say this a lot, but from interviewing the experts and then also consuming these myself, I can personally say I've seen the difference. And the experts will, they will tell you the same thing. Number 4 that is important in the Mediterranean diet are tomatoes. Tomatoes contain something called lycopene or lycopene. Not sure the way it's pronounced in English, but I talk about this a lot on Star Foodies when I'm cooking with tomatoes, and I'm going to have the info here on the screen as well. But essentially, lycopene is something in tomatoes that gives your body, when you consume it, natural protection from the sun. You don't use this in lieu of sunscreen, but it gives you more protection from the sun, and then it also helps boost your collagen. It's a very intricate component of Mediterranean foods and recipes. You'll see tomatoes sauces or tomatoes diced, tomatoes placed in several different ways or cooked in several different ways in the foods. They find a way to kind of sneak them in. And growing up, I didn't like tomatoes, so I definitely have noticed that my mom used to try and sneak them in foods in a variety of different ways. But if you don't like tomatoes, there are a lot of beautiful recipes with cherry tomatoes. Of course, you can make your own tomato sauce as well. Number 5, eat your greens, your leafy greens. Very important in the Mediterranean diet. For what? This is for iron, and we all know how important iron is for our beautiful hair and skin. In fact, I have somebody close to me that was not shedding their hair, but actually losing it. And the doctor told her she had an iron deficiency. So I know there's a direct connection there. You can look that up yourself. But leafy greens is what they use in the Mediterranean to make sure they boost their intake of iron. And an easy way is to incorporate this in salads, of course. There is something very famous in Greece called spanakopita, which is spinach pie. And that's an awesome way. Now you can make this in a variety of different ways, and I can do a separate video on that, but that's an amazing way to get different leafy greens into one meal. And I've actually just recently this year learned how to make a gluten-free phyllo for that. So if you want to have a high protein spinach pie, I can also teach you how to do that. I actually learned how to do that with cottage cheese, and it's just cottage cheese and eggs. But if you can tolerate gluten and you don't mind the beautiful traditional like village phyllo, that is one great delicious recipe to get all of those leafy greens in there and really boost up that iron. Number 6, it's grapes. We're not talking about wine. I actually don't drink any alcohol, so I'm just going to tell you about the grapes. The grapes have a component to them called resveratrol. It's been made very famous over the last few years from scientists that are now discussing how to use it topically. I actually do use the resveratrol from The Ordinary, and I do like it very much. But as far as consumption and food, I think that grapes is probably the best way to get that antioxidant resveratrol into your diet. And resveratrol, of course, the main purpose of this in our diet is anti-aging. It's an antioxidant for anti-aging. Number 6, it's nuts and seeds. You'll go to a cafe, a restaurant, a bar. You'll see on the table, I'm specifically talking about Greece for the Mediterranean diet, you'll see nuts and seeds. It's very customary in the culture to serve you nuts when you go to somebody's house or to a bar, nuts and seeds. What are we getting from nuts and seeds, everybody? We're getting biotin. We are also getting zinc. Why are they so important? They help with keratin production. That's what our hair is made up of mostly, right? So what types of nuts and seeds are we referring to? Well, the most famous in the Mediterranean diet are most definitely the almonds, the walnuts, and the sunflower seeds. Think of when you see a walnut and it's the shape of your brain, it's good for you. Almonds, amazing. They have the fat. They both have the fats. And then sunflower seeds have a lot of additional benefits as well. So those are the 3 that I like. And then I also like adding, which is not predominantly in the Mediterranean diet, but I also like pumpkin seeds because they are a DHT blocker. And I'm going to put some info about DHT on the screen here. I don't want to get too much into this video. So the nuts and seeds, I think, are probably the easiest to start incorporating in your diet. Just keep them on the table in the morning. You didn't get your great protein intake or you didn't get your fat intake. You can have a few almonds or walnuts. And what I do is when I'm traveling, I always keep them in my bag. You shouldn't have an abundance of them, just like a small handful, and they're super easy also to incorporate into a meal. So you can add them in your smoothies or in your yogurt. So I think nuts and seeds are probably the easiest way to start incorporating parts of the Mediterranean diet slowly into your food regimen. Number 8, garlic and onions. Everybody's favorite in the Mediterranean to cook with. Boosts collagen and circulation. And I can tell you, I have researched garlic at great length just because I cook with it every single day personally, and then in the TV series as well. It is a staple. I can tell you that in Greece specifically, garlic is considered, it's medicine. They consider it medicine. You would not cook food without it. And I can also give you some background information. In the original Olympic Games, the athletes were actually consuming garlic as a performance enhancer. So I'm not going to say performance enhancing drug because it's food, obviously. But that's what they used to enhance their performance. Many years later, it was used in a study to see if it really can be considered performance enhancing. Those studies all came out to be inconclusive. But luckily for this video, we do have something that's conclusive, and this has something to do with beauty, which is of course the purpose of this video. It has been known to improve blood flow to hair follicles, therefore more blood flow, more circulation, less thinning. You don't need to eat raw garlic every single day, but there are so many different ways to incorporate in your diet. Cooking on the show, I can tell you that garlic burns very, very quickly when you're cooking. So add it in last. And then also you do get benefits. If you don't like it raw, you still get benefits when it's cooked, everybody. It's a myth that you lose all the benefits. You do get benefits, not as many, of course, as when it's raw, but not everybody can handle it raw. So you can saute it, you can add it to your meals later on. But it is a staple in the Mediterranean diet, and according to the experts who study the Mediterranean diet, it does increase blood flow to your hair follicles. All right, so those are the 8 main foods and ingredients that I wanted to go through. Now, if you all want to see like specific recipes, I'm happy to talk about them, or the way we put certain foods together in the Mediterranean. I just need to know what you guys want to learn a little bit more about. But your takeaway from this video, I would say just try to incorporate things as naturally as possible so you don't feel like a big blow, a big change. Like right away, I'd start using olive oil. If you don't, nuts and seeds, have them on the table. It's really easy to incorporate that. I didn't talk about Greek yogurt specifically, but if I had to choose a yogurt, I would definitely choose the Greek one for the probiotics, of course. And I can do a separate video on Greek coffee as well. So you may or may not know how amazing Greek coffee is for you, but it became quite famous from an American doctor, Dr. Oz, several years ago. Dr. Oz is of Turkish descent. So I believe he interchangeably referred to it sometimes as Greek coffee, sometimes as Turkish coffee, but it really is the same type of coffee. And if that sounds odd to you, Mediterranean and Middle Eastern having the same product, it's actually not, because there is something called politiki cuisine. So that's the Greek term, but it's also a film. So if you look it up, it was translated into English as A Touch of Spice. So if you Google that, you may see A Touch of Spice, the movie. But the actual term refers to cuisine of the city, or political cuisine. It has to do with the ethnic melting pot that was in the region that is current day Istanbul, which is what we call in Greece Konstantinoupoli. When the Turks took over Konstantinoupoli, they renamed it Istanbul. And in that region, it was very ethnically diverse. And the cuisine referenced all that diversity. So you will see really a cross-cultural melting pot when it comes to food in that area. And that's why you'll see baklava in both Middle Eastern versions and then Mediterranean versions, specifically Greek. And that's why there's so much Middle Eastern influence in Greece, because of course the Ottoman Empire and the Turkish occupation in Greece. Nevertheless, there are a lot of benefits to Greek coffee as opposed to what we call American coffee in North America. In Europe, they call it French coffee, okay? So it depends where you are in the world. But for the purpose of what I'm trying to explain right now, let's call it North American filtered coffee. Greek coffee or Turkish coffee is actually not filtered. It's boiled. And that way you actually don't lose the nutrients that we get from coffee, because coffee does have a lot of nutrients. So I can do a separate video on that. Coffee, of course, coming from the cocoa bean, and we all know that cocoa or cacao is a polyphenol, which means that if you're drinking good coffee, you are getting the polyphenols, which is what we learned it's an antioxidant and a very strong antioxidant. Nevertheless, I can do a separate video on some of those items that I mentioned, not baklava because that's a sweet with a lot of honey and sugar, but definitely Greek coffee and the benefits because it's unfiltered. Although it's not specific to this video, I can definitely do a video on that as well. And last but not least, I can definitely say it's all about the glow within. And the lifestyle in the Mediterranean is very different than the lifestyle to North America. I can't compare it to the lifestyle in the United Emirates or Australia, or certain other countries, but I can definitely compare it to the lifestyle in North America. It's much more laid back. There's a lot more sunshine there. The local produce are very different. So generally, it's a different lifestyle. Don't beat yourself up, okay? That's really important. We're a product of our environment for the most part, I believe. So obviously when you're in the Mediterranean, you're facilitating a very different lifestyle. Try to slowly incorporate some of these things if the Mediterranean diet does interest you. And I think you probably will see a difference quite quickly as I did. And of course, comments, inquiries, all welcome below, and I will see y'all in the next one. Please subscribe to be notified of the different types of videos because the content is quite diverse on this channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous.